The sun is your original mother, teacher, healer, and friend. Without it, there would be no life on this planet. Earth would look like Mars. Your body would be dust. Your brain is screaming, crying to reconnect with it. Your body begs to dance in its beautiful rainbow of light. For most of history, humanity lived in peace and harmony with the sun. But in modern times, we have been battling against it. The casualties are staggering. Even if society continues to wage this solar war with its artificial lights, drugs, and technologies, you must escape the herd and save yourself. Become a rogue warrior. Rejoin the sun. Align yourself with its energy by changing how you eat, drink, move, and sleep. Live your life in accordance with the natural light and watch your problems melt away. This is episode number 7, Return to the Sun, your mother of energy and health. From the day we arrive on the planet and blinking step into the sun, there's more to see than can ever be seen, more to do than can ever be done. Before we start, pause this episode and watch the opening scene of The Lion King. You can find it easily on YouTube or wherever. Either version is okay, the original 1994 one or the newer 2019 one. As you watch it, pay particular attention to the sun. Wow, isn't that beautiful? Even this virtual movie-based sun exposure makes you feel great. Notice how all of the animals gaze up at the sun, how all of life moves and flourishes under and along with it. This is more than a metaphor. This is reality. The sun, while about 150 million kilometers away, is our nearest star. That might seem far, but we are so lucky because the next closest star is 266,000 times further away. We Earthlings have hit the intergalactic jackpot. We would have nothing without the sun. It's a gigantic nuclear reactor in the sky that generates all energy, all of it. Food? Plants trap that sun energy inside of them, and then we and other animals eat that energy. Oil, coal, and gas? That's just ancient dead plants and animals. The electricity that runs all of your gadgets and artificial lights from those fossil fuels. What about wind or hydropower, you might ask? If it weren't for the sun, the Earth would be a big frozen ice ball. There would be no wind or flowing water. There's no way around it. We are children and dependents of the sun. Doesn't it now make sense why so many ancient cultures worshipped it? The sun god was a centerpiece of so many cultures. In Egypt, for example, it was called Ra. It gave birth to all of life, including the other gods, representing, for example, the wind, rain, earth, and sky. Humans, animals, and all living things come from Ra. This sounds like more than a myth. In Hinduism, there is Surya, the god of the sun, the creator and leader of the universe, and, you guessed it, the source of all life. He brings light and warmth to the world, travels across the sky every day in his golden chariot. What? I want to go for a ride. He goes by 12 different names for each month of the year. That's cute, but it makes sense because our relationship with the sun is always changing. And as we rotate around it, so much so that by the time a whole month passes, you might as well call it a different name. Sounds like a good idea. That will help you stay synced up with the sun and remind you not to get too stuck in your ways, particularly your sleep, diet, and other behavioral patterns. You must constantly dance with the ever-shifting sun, shifting your dance moves along with it, little by little, each month. Now, sail across the ocean to Central and South America, and whichever civilization you look at, the Mayans, Aztecs, or Incas, the sun was always the number one most important god. Nature was their religion, and these cultures revolved around the sun. The Aztecs even sacrificed humans to feed this god. That might have been taking it a bit too far. I mean, I love the sun. I'm all about reconnecting and aligning with it, but that's just too obsessed. Come on, guys, what are you doing? In Japan, Amaterasu, the goddess of the sun, is one of the major deities of Shinto. If you ever go to Japan, you've got to visit her main home, Isejingu. It's a beauty. The country itself, Nihon, is named after the sun. It's a freaking land of the rising sun. Woo! That red circle on its flag symbolizes the sun. In fact, about 20 different countries have the sun on their flag. These include Argentina, Ecuador, Bangladesh, Kazakhstan, the Philippines, Rwanda, Taiwan, Uruguay, and more. The Greek sun god was Helios, and that's how scientists came up with the name for the element helium. They first found it on the sun during the solar eclipse of 1868. The sun is about 25% helium by mass and 70+% hydrogen. Not to get too sciencey, but these elements are precisely why the sun produces such tremendous amounts of energy, heat, and light. The core of the sun is so hot, over 27 million degrees Fahrenheit, and the gravity is so powerful, 28 times that of Earth, that within that massive fiery ball, the hydrogen atoms fuse together and, boom, create helium. And when matter fuses together like that, some of it is lost and released as energy. That's nuclear fusion. That's what keeps the big fire burning, the big heat turned on, and big light bulb shining in the sky, and us alive. The sun was born about 4.6 billion years ago. And like in Egyptian mythology, along with it was born the rest of our solar system. Wow, it all just popped into existence at the same time. Neptune, Saturn, Jupiter, Mars, Earth, Venus, all of it. The other planets are like our brothers and sisters, and the sun is our mother. We are all in this together. You are not the only one who is lost and confused. If aliens exist, they belong in your family photo. They belong at your family reunion, assuming they don't get too drunk. And of course, no laser guns allowed. Come on guys, there are kids here. Wee, I didn't know. I'm not from here. I thought it was juice. Meow, gross. In the beginning, the Earth was a pretty crazy place. Hot and constantly getting bombarded with collisions. It kept getting hit by big old rocks from space, one of which resulted in the formation of our beautiful moon. Love you, moon. Anyway, after all that mess finally calmed down, the Earth eventually began to fill up with water. Hydrogen, after all, is the most abundant element in the universe, and oxygen is number 3. So those atoms all hanging out on the same block kept bumping into each other and eventually merged together to form into a single superpower, H2O. And with water came the first life forms, the original babies, cyanobacteria. Eventually, these guys got clever and figured out how to tap into the energy of the sun and convert it into good stuff for more life. Photosynthesis. And a byproduct of photosynthesis is more oxygen. The puzzle started filling in. Next came algae, and from that came plants, and bigger plants, and more oxygen, more life. Earth became a much easier place to live, and then there came animals, and fast forward, you were born. You are still alive, tied up with that whole solar process. Life on Earth has been able to last so deliciously long because of the sun. It takes all the hits, the never-ending series of violent reactions in its core, and we reap the benefits. So look up and say thank you to the sun. Express your gratitude to it. Acknowledge it for everything it does for you. Without it, there would be no you or anyone or anything that you love. You can do the same gratitude exercise for your actual mother too, as she's often also exploding up inside, taking pain upon herself to make your life better, even if only in having given birth to you. What an explosion that was. A human turning herself inside out, blasting new life out into the world. Even if you have no mother or you hate her, remember that you still have the sun and everything else underneath it. Think of how lonely and sad Pluto must feel, way out there in the cold, dark depths of the universe. And on top of all that, getting kicked off the team. But even it has a sun taking care of it. Everything is connected in one loving field of light provided by the sun. Now what I want to do is provide you with a 24-hour template for how to interact with and make best use of the sun. Like swimming against the current in a river, your life will be much more painful and difficult if you fight the cycles of the sun. Align yourself properly with it. Dance gently with it. Listen to and obey it. Spend lots of time together. Become best friends. If you do that, you will feel like you are in heaven. Even after just a couple of days, the effects will start kicking in. Habit change is hard, so implement just 1 or 2 of these steps at first. Actually, don't think of these as separate steps or actions. They are all ultimately one big action or way of being, living in a closer relationship with and greater harmony with the sun. Any of these action steps I am about to propose are like drops of sun energy, filling up your cup. And the more full that cup is, the more energy, happiness, and mental clarity you will have. One big reason why we think we need things like pharmaceuticals, drugs, and fake food is because we are so lacking in actual sun energy, the only energy that there really is. Since we're so hungry, so empty, so dark inside, we become desperate, scavenging for whatever we can find. But like those hyenas and vultures in The Lion King, that does not lead to true nourishment, happiness, or success. Notice the very beginning of the movie. What's the first thing that you see? The sunrise. And that's the way your day should be too. That is the perfect opening scene to the movie of your today and every day. You know it's going to be epic when you see that sunrise. You know something good is going to happen when you wake up to that red, orange, rising sun. Maybe your own theme song can be playing in the background too. That's a great idea. It probably is somewhere deep inside your body anyway. Regardless, the first thing that you see should be the sun, not your phone, TV, computer, messages, or any of that. You already know how bad and sad that will make you feel. Plus, it's starving your body of real sunlight. Rafiki does not hold baby Simba up towards a big smartphone screen in the sky. He holds him up to the morning sun. That is the beginning of his life, and the beginning of your life as it renews today. The sun reminds you on both the physiological and psychological level that you are part of a much bigger reality. Your ego fades away into the background. Your thoughts quiet down, and you merge back into the oneness of the universe. The light is like a portal, bringing you back to who you really are, updating and restarting both your soul and body. I don't need to give you the science on why seeing the sun in the morning is so important. You know from experience that morning sun exposure leads to you feeling and functioning great all day long. When you don't get it, you feel grungy, like when you forgot to brush your teeth. You don't know quite why you feel so gross, but the hidden cause is often lack of sunlight. For example, when you go camping, you get woken up by the birds, and with no cell phone service and thus nothing to do, you return to a natural, curious, childlike state, connected with your natural self, and you go venture outside, forgetting your everyday ego and worries. It might be cold, but the sun is warm. It cleanses you, and something long lost and deep inside you is so happy to see it. It feels like a much-needed hug, massage, or smile. You get realigned, rebaptized. But then, a few days pass, you return to civilization, and it was all just a magical dream. You can live that dream even in a big city, every day. But just as you wouldn't peek through at the sun through a tiny window in your tent, don't do that in your home either. At least open the window. The window blocks out too much of the light waves. You really need to be getting outside for the full effect. Even being in the car doesn't count. Stand on your balcony. Find a nearby park. Go for a walk. Walk your dog. Hey, then double prizes. Both you and your dog will be healthier and happier. Almost all living things, animals, plants, microbes, have circadian rhythms, those 24-hour clocks running in the background, determining when they eat, move, sleep, etc. Since the sun is the mother source of all life on Earth, every living thing functions more efficiently and smoothly when it is properly aligned with the sun. The natural cycles of light, and dark. The early morning is also one of the few times during the day when it is maybe safe or even good to look directly at the sun. This ancient practice of sun gazing goes back thousands of years to various civilizations such as the Aztecs, ancient Egyptians, and in India. It's supposed to reconnect you to this vital nutrient, light, and reconnect you in an almost meditative way with the mother sun and nature as a whole. But warning, this can cause permanent eye damage. The eyes are so sensitive, and whatever benefits you might get from doing this likely do not outweigh the risks. The light entering your eye from the periphery or just hitting your skin is probably enough. Still, if you insist on sun gazing, which I must admit I sometimes cannot resist doing, watching the sun cross over the horizon is an otherworldly experience. Still, if you must, don't do it for more than like 10 seconds. Also, only do it when the sun is low on the horizon, no higher than 30 degrees. Quick math lesson. The Earth does a 360-degree rotation every 24 hours, so on average, that translates to about 15 degrees per hour. The sun, therefore, rises by that amount every hour. So at about 2 hours after sunrise and 2 hours before sunset, it is 30 degrees above the horizon. That's your limit. And now that math class is out, it's time to go to physics class. Light is energy, a kind of electromagnetic energy coming from the sun, and it travels as waves, which come in various lengths and frequencies. Humans can only see a very narrow range of the sun's energy. Those waves in the 380 to 700 nanometer range. That's what we call light. And each color that we see corresponds to a different wavelength of light. It might be a little hard to imagine this. So do this. Think about sound. Sound, just like light, also travels in waves and contains energy. Imagine those guitar strings vibrating or the baby crying, causing sound waves to ripple out and hit your ears. What kinds of sounds do you think have shorter wavelengths, higher frequencies, and contain more energy? That's right, those high-pitched ones, like from a whistle, mosquito, or a shrieking, crying baby. Low-pitched sounds, on the other hand, have longer wavelengths, lower frequencies, and contain less energy. Think bass drum, earthquake, hippopotamus. Now, just like with light, humans can only perceive a narrow range of sounds. The dog whistle is right beyond our upper limit. Dogs and cats can hear higher frequencies, and bats and especially dolphins can hear and make even higher ones. When they send out those ultrasound waves, the sounds bounce back and they get a kind of visualization of their environment. These are the same sound waves used in ultrasound machines in hospitals to generate a picture of the baby in the womb, or things like tumors and kidney stones, and the sonar used by the military and the fishing industry to detect those quiet things lurking underwater, like submarines and fish. That's because the higher the frequency, the faster the sounds bounce back, and therefore the higher the resolution. Imagine increasing the magnitude on a microscope, allowing you to see smaller stuff. It's like that. Okay, so let's connect this back to light waves. The color red is metaphorically the earthquake or hippopotamus of light. It's on the low end of the spectrum, where the waves are longer, lower frequency, and packed with less overall energy. On the high end, where the waves are shorter, higher frequency, and full of more energy, would be the color violet. Wow, blueberries, amethyst crystals, and Barney the dinosaur have a lot more in common with mosquitoes, whistles, and babies than you would ever think. They're all throwing off, reflecting lots of energy. Push violet any further and it would be invisible. Still there, but not for us to see. That's where you get ultraviolet or UV light. These are your dog whistles. Now, it makes sense why those UV rays are so damaging, giving you sunburns and hurting your eyes, right? There's a lot of energy in them. Dial down the length of the waves, thus increasing the frequency, and next you get X-rays. These have too much energy for us to regularly handle. Way stronger than those UV rays. Crank up the frequency even further, and you get the strongest form of electromagnetic energy, gamma rays. Luckily, we don't encounter these too much. We'd be fried and crispy if we did. They are, however, emitted from some medical equipment, specifically for treating cancer. For example, doctors might blast tumors with gamma rays. It's also part of what gets blasted out in nuclear explosions like in Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and disasters like in Chernobyl and Fukushima. The sun itself doesn't normally release gamma rays, so you're not going to have to worry about that when being outside on a normal day, unless there is some freak accident on the sun, like when it explodes out solar flares and those X-rays and gamma rays hit us, causing a geomagnetic storm. But even when that happens, like the big one in Carrington in 1859, or the one earlier this year, we humans are usually safe. The atmosphere, the ozone layer, protects us. It's our technology, like computers and satellites, that we have to worry about. And it's not 1859 anymore. We have more than telegraphs to worry about. Oh man, in February, the day after SpaceX put up 40 new satellites, a geomagnetic storm struck and destroyed them. Freaking Star Wars stuff going on up there. Whoa. It could be worse though. If one hits us just right, it has the potential to knock out all of our technology, setting us back to the Stone Age. So now we got Star Wars and the Flintstones. Yay, exciting. It may seem I'm getting off topic here, but it does all reconnect. We'll connect this all back to watching the sunrise, and more importantly, overall sun and light exposure. But first, let's look at the other end of the light/energy spectrum. To recap, you got high frequency, high energy waves on one end. The most extreme are those gamma rays we just talked about. But in terms of visibility, the furthest the human eye can see is violet. Then on the complete other end of the spectrum are longer wavelengths with less energy, lower frequencies. Imagine strawberries, rubies, and red roses. If the frequency was any lower, they too would be invisible. Well, those wavelengths projecting out the red into our eyes would at least be. Makes you wonder how much else is out there in reality hidden in those invisible, ultra high or low frequencies. How little of reality that we can actually perceive. Some animals can pick up some of these lower frequencies, particularly infrared light. Warm-blooded animals, which means birds and mammals, including humans, I'm talking about you, are themselves just too warm to be able to see infrared light. It still has physiological effects on us, we just can't see it. However, many of the colder animals, particularly reptiles, fish, and insects, can see it. Not all of them, but many of them can. For example, many snakes, particularly boas, pythons, and pit vipers, which includes rattlesnakes, have one or several special holes on their face which can detect infrared light. So snakes can see you or that mouse or whatever because you are always releasing heat. They can detect that, which helps them eat and survive. Snakes aren't the only ones. Other animals that can detect infrared include mosquitoes, bullfrogs, salmon, piranha, goldfish, and vampire bats. Vampire bats are one of the very few mammals that can do it. And goldfish are the only animal that can see such a wide spectrum, both infrared and ultraviolet light. That's a huge spectrum. Looks like those big buggy eyes are actually doing something. They're not just decorations. Unfortunately, humans can't see infrared light. But we have developed some technologies, for example, night vision goggles and infrared security cameras that let us hack the ordinary limits of our vision. There are even lower frequencies of electromagnetic radiation beyond infrared. The lowest with the least amount of energy and longest wavelengths are radio waves. This makes them very useful for broadcasting messages across a long distance without interference. So they are used in telecommunication technologies such as radios, TVs, cell phones, and Wi-Fi. These are also the least dangerous kinds of electromagnetic energy because they're the lowest energy. We don't need to worry too much about them. Microwaves are slightly higher frequency. These are mainly used in, not surprisingly, microwave ovens. Next, you get infrared. And finally, the visible spectrum of light, all those colors of the rainbow, starting with red. And what color is a sunrise? Red. Maybe orangish, yellowish. Remember, these are longer wavelengths, lower frequencies of light, packed with less energy and therefore less damaging to the skin and eyes. Of course, there could be other invisible wavelengths of light hidden in there too, such as UVA or UVB rays, you might think, but there aren't any, not at that time of day. Why not? Well, there's something called the ozone layer up there in the sky, a little bit above where airplanes fly, and it absorbs most of the UV rays coming from the sun. This is probably why you've never even heard of UVC rays, the strongest version of UV light. None of that even gets past our ozone layer, our shield. They are completely absorbed, so we have no reason to worry about or talk about them. We do all know about UVA and UVB though. That's because during the regular part of the day, some of these actually get past Earth's natural sunblock in the sky, the ozone. However, in the early morning hours, when the sun is closer to the horizon, the more atmosphere the UV light must pass through to reach us. It's a longer journey that it can't survive through. Imagine this. You can swim across the pool, but you can't swim across the lake. The journey's too long. You get swallowed up by the water at some point, and the UV rays, like the swimmers in this example, you can visualize them as manta rays just for fun. They get swallowed up by the air before they can reach land. The ozone particularly loves to eat up those wavelengths at around the 250 range and has a hard time digesting ones longer than 340 nanometers. That makes UVB energy the perfect target, as it is in the 280 to 315 range. Even yummier than those UVCs, which are in the 100 to 280 range, but those get eaten up very quickly. It's the longer wavelength UVAs that survive most easily. They are like those tall swimmers with long arms and legs, big hands and feet, allowing them to move faster and more efficiently through the water compared to the shorter swimmers such as the babies, the UVCs, and children, the UVBs. UVA light is less likely to drown and more likely to make it to land. We'll come back to this point later, but for now, the point I'm trying to make is the sun is less intense at that kind of sweet spot, not too dark, not too bright for your eyes and skin during the first couple hours of the day. So after that long field trip through science that we just took, we're now getting back to sun gazing. If you're going to look at the sun, this is the time to do it. Make sure the sun is no more than 30 degrees above the horizon, or about 2 hours after sunrise, and for no more than 10 seconds at a time, especially at first. Still, that's the limit. No need to push the limits when it comes to eye damage. I try to keep it within 15 degrees or 1 hour from sunrise or sunset, or just not do it at all. This is a controversial topic, and I am not a doctor. This is not advice, but to be honest, I do enjoy gazing at the sun for 3 to 5, maybe 10 seconds every morning. Low on the horizon, low time duration, overall decent ratio of risk to reward, bang for your buck. It resets me to a positive mood that often stretches out through the entire day. Still, you've been warned. Gaze at your own risk, and don't get too crazy with it. Definitely don't look at the afternoon sun. Why is the morning sun so important? Deep inside your brain, kind of right above the roof of your mouth in the hypothalamus, is a tiny but powerful clock. You are almost knocking on its door when you click your tongue. Almost nothing can touch it. The only way in is through your eyes, and light is the key. This clock has a fancy name, the suprachiasmatic nucleus, or SCN for short. Just imagine those 3 initials engraved into the clock. Why does your brain need it, you might ask? I can just check the time on my phone or wrist. Well, your brain doesn't speak that modern language. It doesn't get communicated, and this human-created kind of time is not what's important to your body. That's just an invention, a rough estimate, mainly to help us get more work done to propel society forward. We don't need it, and for most of history, we didn't even have clocks. We used the position of the sun and levels of light and darkness to tell the time. Our body, deep throughout all of its cells, could feel the time, a fully immersive, embodied clock that we have lost touch with in modern times. That's where the SCN comes in handy. It receives information in the form of light from the eyes and skin, especially the eyes, particularly special cells in your retinas, telling your brain that it's daytime and to wake up. Your body clocks in with the exact time stamped onto your brain, acting as a sort of reference point for future brain activity. For example, when to release certain hormones, when to go to sleep, when to wake up the next day, and so on. And think of this big clock as much like an old grandfather clock or guitar. It needs retuning basically every day. Make it a non-negotiable, like wiping your butt or brushing your teeth. And remember, the SCN is just the master clock, the main circadian clock. It is not the only clock in your body. Every cell and organ inside of you has its own little clock, synced up with that master granddaddy one upstairs. When the big clock strikes, it rattles off messages to all the little ones, and they all sync up like a conductor and an orchestra. One mistake can ripple out far for a big overall effect. Mistake? What do you mean, you might ask? How can the SCN make a mistake? Well, remember that the Earth is rotating around the Sun, which takes 365 days for a full rotation. Depending on where we are on that cycle, days can be shorter or longer. At the same time, the Earth itself is also spinning around. One full spin takes 24 hours. During some of that time, you'll be facing towards the sun and it'll be light outside, and some of the time, you'll be facing away on the opposite side of the sun. It'll be dark. Your body is always trying to figure out where it is in space and time along these cycles. Why? Why does your body care? Because it wants to survive. In order to maximize our chances of finding food, mates, and protection, we need to be aware of what's going on in our environment. And that environment is always changing based on its current positioning with the sun. Night is very different from day. Summer, very different from winter. We don't usually notice these changes happening because they happen so gradually. We think about day, night, and the 4 seasons. But what about all the small changes in natural light happening every second? Every little change has an effect on our survival and therefore biology. Humans were designed to be awake and to move during the day and to be asleep and to rest at night. If you go against this, there will be consequences. Out there in the jungle, you might die immediately. Here in modern society, where it's so easy to stray away from our natural environment and rhythms because of artificial lighting, food, and jobs, you are still in equal danger. A less immediate death, but sickness, suffering, and death nonetheless. When precisely should you eat, move, socialize, and sleep? Light is the secret message telling your body the answer. Your photoreceptors in your eyes and skin are the keyholes. Your suprachiasmatic nucleus is the clock and conductor, helping set off the whole cascade of events. If it misses the timing of sunrise by even a couple of hours because you're sleeping in, everything gets thrown off accordingly. Things get misaligned, and big things. I'm talking hunger signals, sleep times, etc. One day might not be a big deal, but take the incorrect answer to a math problem and multiply it across weeks, months, and years, and big problems can arise. When the SCN gets blasted with light, your body wakes up. All the wake-up hormones, such as cortisol, begin to flood throughout your body. This is a good thing. While we normally associate cortisol with stress, which is true, there are times of the day when it is good. Morning is one of these times. It makes you feel alert and awake. It's highest in the early morning and gradually, naturally tries to go down as the day wears on. Early in the day, cortisol has positive effects on your health and mood. The reverse is true at night. So look out at the morning horizon for at least 3 to 15 minutes. That will not only reset your clock, but also raise your cortisol levels, leading to immediate energy in the morning and a proper fall in the evening, leading to relaxation and sleep. This is another reason to try to exercise or work out earlier in the day. Exercise also causes the release of cortisol, along with endorphins and dopamine, all of which help wake you up. Pump it up in the morning. Communicate in as many languages as possible to your brain and body that it is daytime, a time for movement and action. If you have the flexibility in your schedule, a good time to exercise is right after your morning sun exposure. Afternoon is okay too, but just remember, the closer it gets to nighttime, the more you're starting to mess with your hormones and sleep-wake cycle. Remember, action during the day, rest at night. And what a fantastic combination of medication, morning sun, and exercise. Two scientifically proven, highly potent antidepressants and mood boosters without any of the nasty side effects. Plus, both are basically free and easy to access. Nature's democratized healthcare system. Okay, so now you've woken up, retuned your internal clock, and got in your exercise. And you might think it's time to eat breakfast. If you're hungry, go ahead and eat. But it's likely that after seeing that sunrise, you will already have a kind of natural energy. You won't need that cup of coffee or plate of breakfast anymore. The sun can be your new caffeine, your new breakfast. So before shoving things in your half-awake mouth, at least first give the sun a chance. But if after going out into the sun, you still want it, go ahead. To understand why I'm saying this, let's talk a bit more about red light, which is the main wavelengths that you're getting in those first couple of hours, along with infrared. Remember, red is the longest wavelength and infrared even longer. Therefore, it has the power to penetrate your skin and go into deeper parts of your body. Unlike, for example, blue light and UV light, your skin cannot absorb it. Instead, it shoots right through it, traveling through your body and can go all the way to your bones, deep into them. This helps not only energize you, but benefits any cell or organ that it touches. Many parts of your body rarely get touched by the raw energy of the sun or anything, but they all need it, even those dark, lonely places deep inside of you. Light being one of the only things powerful and precise enough to get into all those little nooks and crannies. When it touches those cells and enters them, they are powerfully affected. That can be a good or bad thing depending on the wavelength and therefore level of energy. As for red light and infrared light, it's usually a very good thing. Red light also affects your cravings and desire to eat. It decreases your hunger hormone ghrelin and increases leptin, your satiety hormone. This is great if you're trying to lose weight or intermittent fasting or just want to save time and energy from having to eat breakfast. There's more. It boosts mitochondrial function. Your mitochondria, which are in every cell of your body, are responsible for generating ATP. That's the energy that fuels your entire body and brain. It's your fuel. So more red light, more energy. That explains why even just 3 minutes of morning sun feels like a shot of espresso. Red light exposure, even just a little bit, also improves your eyesight. Wow, reverses vision loss. Who knows what other parts of your body it's also healing? But remember, the sun keeps moving through the sky, and along with that, different combinations of wavelengths are able to reach Earth. If you're outside, your body will keep receiving those updated signals and adjust everything accordingly inside your body. Over 50% of all the light we receive throughout the day is infrared. That's always going to be there. Red is also always basically there too. This makes complete sense because these are longer wavelengths of light, and the longer the wavelength, the easier it can penetrate through the Earth's atmosphere. Still, the longer wavelengths do sneak in, especially as the sun begins to rise higher and higher. It's from about when the sun reaches that 30-degree mark, which is around 2 hours after sunrise, that the shorter waves, the greens, blues, and then violets begin to come out and hit us. These don't get much past the surface layer of the skin. Blue light really turns up our cortisol levels, making you feel awake, while shutting off any release of melatonin, which we all know puts us to sleep. Melatonin is more than that, though. It's a messenger whispering to your body about how much light is outside in your environment. It says, hey, if you see me, go to sleep. If I'm not here, go ahead and stay awake. Kind of like the parent coming into the child's bedroom at night, shutting off the lights and telling him to go to bed. Like that, melatonin controls the power switch in various areas or rooms in your brain. Blue light suppresses 2 times as much melatonin as green does. So blue light is perfect for us in the normal daylight hours, which conveniently is when it's there, that clever, ever so thoughtful sun. Blue light is the main wavelength affecting and controlling your overall circadian rhythms and sleep patterns. It keeps you awake. It also makes you hungry, triggering your body to pump out ghrelin. Remember, that's your hungry hormone. Easy to remember. Just imagine a gremlin eating. Rah, 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 rah. Blue light also stimulates the calming, relaxing, feel-good neurotransmitter serotonin, as well as the I want more pleasure neurotransmitter dopamine that gets you motivated and ready to move forward into action. A cascade of hormones and neurotransmitters are triggered by blue light, which is why we need to be very conscious of our exposure to it. It's potent stuff, pushing you into action and consumption. The sun peaks in the sky at around noon, 12 p.m., the same time at which all of those chemical messengers inside you are peaking too, screaming at you to eat lunch. Obey that feeling, eat. The higher the sun is up in the sky, the more you should eat. Eat most of your food when the sun and you are strongest and most awake. Light breakfast, light dinner, big lunch. Food, just like light, sends information to your brain and body, telling it what to do. You want to send the right information at the right times. That information sets off a chain reaction of software programs within your body, and almost like a kind of AI, it starts doing all kinds of things on its own beyond your control, yet controlling you, for better or worse. The early afternoon is, for most people, the optimal time to run all of those action, motion-based programs within your body, such as those involving physical movement, socializing, consumption, whether it be in the form of food, entertainment, or whatever, and digestion. Day is for movement and growth. Night is for rest and recovery. Every individual is different with a different body type, chronotype, etc., of course, but this is the general rule. Remember, food is energy. All that energy, those calories inside there, ultimately came from the sun. When you eat anything, you're eating some version of sun energy. Plants soaked up and stored that energy inside themselves, and we eat those plants or animals that ate them. However, not all food is equal. Forget about calories. Start thinking in terms of closeness to the sun. How far that energy inside the food had to travel from the sun to your plate. How far, not just in terms of distance and steps involved, but also time. Technically, every object on this earth has some level of sun energy trapped inside of it. Even tables, chairs, and bouncy balls. But you're not going to eat a bouncy ball. That's not food. What the heck is a bouncy ball anyway? What's it made of? How did it get here? How many steps were involved in making it? How complex were each of those steps? And how many questions am I going to ask? You probably aren't eating couch cushions or rubber bands, but you might be eating a lot of other junk void of real energy, disguised as food that isn't much better. Think about how far that supposed food had to travel to get to you, from the sun to the plant to God knows where, maybe the trash can and back to some factory, mix it up with some other objects getting tossed back and forth around the earth. Maybe do a few laps of that. And what are you left with when you eat that cookie or chip or fast food item? Beaten down, traumatized, nearly dead energy. The sun is not there anymore. It was pounded out of it throughout the production process and replaced with lifeless material. And you think the dog is dirty for putting shoes in its mouth, the baby playing outside, eating dirt? Dirt, shoes, way better than that stuff. Then, on the opposite side of the spectrum, imagine the process involved in creating those vegetables in front of you. The real food, some seeds sitting in the dirt, combined with water and sun and a couple companies to deal with the basic logistics, transportation, etc. of getting it to your local store. There might be some chemical and other nonsense companies involved too, but if you eat organic, you're cutting that part out of the process, getting closer and faster to the sun. If you buy in season, you're speeding up and simplifying the process even further. And if, on top of all that, you buy local, even better. Wow, can you feel it? The warm, unadulterated sun in your mouth, traveling through and transforming your body? If you grow your own plants and things to eat in your backyard or garden, you're getting basically as close as you can get. The only closer you can really get is to hook a pipe up to the sun itself and plug the other end into your body or install some weird solar panels onto your tongue and go outside and wiggle your tongue around. You're already 99% of the way there, though, by just eating real natural food. And you are a trillion miles away, tripping around in a land of darkness when you pop open those packages you found in the center aisles of the store. The more food you eat that still has sun energy trapped inside of it, the more of that energy or light you'll be able to transfer into your own body. Do you want to build your body out of light or darkness? Before eating something, ask yourself, how close is this to raw solar energy? The closer, the better. Also, more steps in the food production process usually also means more fossil fuels being used and more damage being done to the ozone layer. Remember, that is our lifeline, the Earth's natural sunscreen. Without it, all the dangerous high-energy radiation, ultraviolet light, X-rays, and gamma rays will slip through, heating up the Earth, throwing off natural cycles, and ultimately killing us all. However much I've been raving about the sun this whole time, it is too powerful of a force. There is too much of a good thing, and the ozone layer in our atmosphere helps buffer that and keep things under control. We must protect it. One way to do that is to decrease your carbon footprint by, for example, eating real, simple, organic, local, in-season food as much as possible. Remember on The Lion King when Simba, Timon, and Pumbaa were eating all those juicy grubs, those insects in the forest, in their backyard? They went straight to the natural sources. Sure, those bugs ate the plants and the plants ate the sun, but that's pretty close. And look at how happy and energized they were. Right after eating, they started singing Hakuna Matata, and it was in that scene that little Simba transformed into a big, strong, well-functioning adult. A lion that would go on to save that world. Your body will start singing Hakuna Matata too whenever you eat that close to the sun. And you too can go on to save some world, whether your own individual life or something bigger, lifting others up with you. Keep eating like that, and no more worries for the rest of your days. Listen to episode 2 and 3 if you want to learn more about some of the specific foods to eat, particularly for your brain. Let's talk about ultraviolet light now. Remember, the UVAs are slightly longer wavelengths, so they get through the atmosphere easier. They will arrive on the scene first, shortly after all the greens and blues, a few hours after sunrise. Ultraviolet light is great for us in certain doses. UVA causes the release of nitric oxide, increasing blood flow and decreasing blood pressure and reducing pain. UVB, being shorter wavelength, penetrates slightly deeper into your skin, which triggers off a chemical reaction that causes your body to produce vitamin D3. Vitamin D is great for a lot of things. It boosts your immune system, bones, pain tolerance, overall mood, and energy. It is also necessary in order for your body to produce serotonin. Remember, that's the calm, everything is okay, under control, relaxing neurochemical. This is part of why UVB exposure particularly helps a lot of people who are suffering from depression, bipolar disorder, or low mood. Not having enough of it can also lead to low energy, brain fog, and lack of focus. If you find yourself with any of these conditions, ask yourself, am I getting enough light and at the right times? We can all use the sun's immune system boosting effects, but especially those of us who are sick. One more thing. Serotonin ultimately during the night gets converted into melatonin. So the equation goes like this. UVB equals more vitamin D equals more serotonin equals more melatonin equals happiness and better sleep. And there's more. UVB also increases dopamine, which makes you feel motivated, optimistic, and feeling good, and increases testosterone. Pump it up. Wow. That's quite the pill, quite the natural cocktail. Is it even legal? Yes, it's super legal and super free and abundant. You might not even need another one. Do talk to your doctor first, though. I am not a doctor, and this is not official medical advice. Obviously, it's a podcast. You might be scratching your head a bit here because you've been told that UVA and UVB are bad for you. They cause skin damage and cancer. So you lather up in sunscreen, cover up as much of your skin as possible in clothing, slap on some sunglasses, and scurry off into your indoor cave every day. There is some validity to all of this. Yes, ultraviolet light is powerful stuff. It's right there behind X-rays on the energy spectrum, but still nowhere near it. X-rays are in the 0.01 to 10 nanometer range, whereas UVB is in the 280 to 315 range, and UVA 315 to 400. If X-rays were a forest fire, UV light would be a candle. It can burn your house down, but you just got to be careful with it. You don't need to stop using candles altogether. They provide a lot of benefits. So does UV light. The people who need to be the most careful are obviously those who are more sensitive to the sun. The people with lower levels of melanin in their skin and eyes. Melanin is the stuff in your skin, hair, and eyes that causes it to be darker. It also absorbs more UV light, ultimately protecting you from damage. So if your skin is really white or your eyes are light colored like blue or green, you need to be more careful. You don't need as much sun as someone with darker features. That's a good thing and a bad thing. It means you can get the benefits of UV light more quickly with less sun exposure, whereas people with darker colored skin need to stay in the sun longer to reap all the benefits like vitamin D. But at the same time, they're less likely to get damaged by the sun. We all want to avoid looking directly at the sun when the UV rays are out in the afternoon, but getting some sun in your eyes by being outdoors will make you feel a lot better. It'll increase your mood. The skin is important, yes, but the eyes have special cells in them that really soak in the UVB rays, streamlining that sun into your veins. So try to avoid wearing sunglasses. I have blue eyes and am very sensitive to light. Still, I know the value of it. So I have trained myself to keep my sunglasses at home. Stop being so scared of the sun. You're not a vampire. Start seeing it as nutritious life force instead of poisonous death rays. Unless you're stuck in some kind of emergency or survival situation or it's against the law, try to wear less clothing during the day. Drop the hat, roll up your sleeves, wear some shorts, let the sun touch as much of your skin as possible. If you have a secret place where it's possible to do so, even go sunbathing naked. The more surface area the sun touches, the better, and the more nutrition you will receive. Sunbathing was all the craze in mid-1920s America. Bust out your jazz jukebox or iPhone and spend at least a few minutes sunbathing every day. Even 2 to 5 minutes will do the trick. It doesn't have to be naked. Don't worry, I don't want you getting arrested. Just the less covered up, the better. UVB really shuts down melatonin release too. So this could be a great way to wake yourself up during that mid-afternoon slump after lunch. Too late for caffeine, but not too late for the sun. Also, if you want the benefits of UVA and UVB, avoid wearing sunscreen. It's full of all kinds of toxic chemicals and ingredients anyway. The sunscreen will protect you from the damaging effects of ultraviolet light, but it'll also strip away all of its benefits. The sunscreen strategy is way too risk averse. It's like never talking to girls because you might get rejected or heartbroken. That does save you in that way, but strips away any possibilities of you ever experiencing the positive effects of relationships. Eventually, you just gotta get out there in the sun or wherever. Everything, especially the best things in life, have their risks. This also means don't stay locked up in your room or office all day. At least open up the curtains, but better yet, get outside. Work outdoors if possible. Maybe do some walking meetings or at least eat your lunch outside, like in the park. That's what I do. Like some kind of weirdo, I kick off my shoes, connect my feet with the earth, eat my plants and vegetables, ingesting that raw light, and connect with the sun hovering above. That's how your lunch break should be. A rejuvenation and recharge, not a drain, being stuck indoors with all the light and noise pollution under those industrial grade artificial lights and coworkers gossiping away at nothingness. And then you eat that fake food and wonder why you're sick and depressed. I want you to get better. The sun wants you to. It arrives on time every day and waits for you to come and meet it. It wants to heal you, love you, and it's just waiting for you to arrive, for you to receive and accept its blessings, its gifts. The natural, free healer in the sky is there for you. Stop pushing her away. Listen to her call. Go to him. So little UVB reaches us here on Earth as it is that we need to take whatever we can get. Yes, early morning sun exposure is essential as it resets your internal clock, fixing your circadian rhythms, pushing play on the timer that leads you off to slumberland by nightfall and heals your body, but we need the full spectrum of light, the entire rainbow and beyond. Late morning and afternoon sun becomes a multivitamin, giving us higher energy wavelengths, potent nutrients that don't exist at sunrise or sunset. Ah, sunset! Sunrise's sister. Yes, can you see those beautiful colors in the sky? Soak them in while they last before they fade to black. The sun has almost finished its daily journey across the sky, arriving in the west. Your internal clock checks back in one last time for one final tuning, downloading the sun's latest information and sending that off to each of your cells and organs. The ultraviolet light once again is blocked by the sun's atmosphere as the sun reaches its new horizon. The greens, blues, and violets fade away, and what you are left with for a few moments are shades of red and yellow. Look out at the line in the distance as it swallows up your mother sun, putting her to sleep. Take in one last time for today her red and infrared waves of light. Eat your last meal. Keep it light, like the colors of the sky. Let the food fade away. Put all the energy away. Food, work, electronics. Let it all flicker off into sleep together with the sun. Night has arrived. Within a few hours, all of your food is digested and your digestive system can go to sleep too. Next, we need to power down all the rest. With the high energy frequencies, the ultraviolet, blue, and green light gone, your cortisol levels drop and your body reopens its valve full of melatonin. And since you stockpiled all that serotonin throughout the day, a lot of melatonin can now be produced. All the clocks in your body clicking off towards the end of their cycle all point in the same direction. Sleep. You doze off to sleep and the whole process begins anew the next morning. You, every cell in your body, and the sun dancing in harmony. At least that's how it would be in an ideal world and how it was before the advent of electricity and industrial culture and work. Not only have we strayed so far from the sun during daytime, we have become 5 times as naughty at night. The primary culprit is artificial light. Our body only expects to see blue and UV light when the sun is up. There was no blue light at night for most of history, yet most of our screens emit blue light. Light bulbs, especially those incandescent ones, emit something even worse, at least by night standards, UV light. In your house, you've got TVs, computers, phones, and overhead lights. Actually, the cells in your eyes that are most responsible for picking up light and waking you up reside in the lower half of your eye. So the higher up the light is, for example, on your ceiling, the more seeing that light will affect your level of wakefulness. Highly positioned lights are great for earlier in the day, but at night, try to lower your lights as close to the floor as possible. Play hide and go seek with them, but just give up in the middle and leave them hiding. Outside is often even worse. Deadly headlights attacking you from every angle, zooming in at you, blinding everything in their path. Streetlights, neon lights, flashing advertisements, outnumbering you, ganging up on you, stabbing you in your eyeballs. What have we become? An inside-out vampire Earth? We run away from the sun during the daytime and try to replicate it at night. And then we keep shoving fragments of dark, shattered light into our mouths and eyes, turning our system on overdrive when it's screaming to take a break. We will kill ourselves before we give our bodies a break. We will die before we give up our nighttime entertainment, late night parties and snacks, and never-ending pleasures. We would rather live in defiant rebellion against our nature, against all of nature, our larger self, than to experience a moment of pain or boredom. But the drugs will only last so long. The beast is only satisfied as long as you keep feeding it. And then, if you neglect it for 20 minutes, it roars out in a fiery rage. That's no way to live. What a horrible system. That's addiction and sadness. We are a society of addicts, and our master addiction, the one that rules them all, is the addiction to a broken clock. If you fix that clock, by realigning your behavior in accordance with the sun, doing what we talked about in this podcast, you will likely see many of your sub-addictions, food, alcohol, sex, entertainment, fall away. They might be able to beat you, but they cannot beat the sun. Bring out your strongest fire Pokemon and show them who's boss. Here's what you need to do at night. Stay away from all the blue and UV light. This likely means you'll have to stay indoors. No going outside because it's a freaking artificial light war zone out there. If you do go outside, bring your blue light blocking glasses. You can also use those in your house too. No need to use them during the day because that is when you want the blue light. It's hard to get much UVB light from artificial lights, but even a little of it really scares away, shuts down your melatonin, making it almost impossible for you to go to sleep. It is totally unacceptable at night. You don't want any amount sneaking through, especially the later into the night it gets, like after 10 p.m. It might also be worth investing in some blackout curtains to further shut out all that light from outside, especially if you're living in a light polluted city like New York, Singapore, or Tokyo. Even suburbs are too bright at night these days. The world is flooded in light 24/7. Also, if you haven't already, definitely take advantage of the night mode or blue light blocking mode on all of your computers, phones, and devices. It's pre-built into most of them now and adds an orange tint to the screen. You can turn it off during the daytime though. Bright screens are okay during the daytime, but not at night. That's toxic pollution that's going to ruin your day tomorrow. Turn off your electronics. The earlier you can, the better. You'll probably need some kind of indoor lighting unless you want to be tripping over things and sitting in the dark doing nothing, but keep it as dim as possible and switch out the bright bulbs for ones that don't blast you full of energy with their high frequencies. If you have to wake up in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom, don't slam on the big overhead bathroom light. That demolishes your melatonin and jolts you into wakefulness, confusing the hell out of your body. Use the minimum amount of light possible to get you there, like the light from your phone. Of course, still on night mode. Turn off or unplug all your random light-emitting things like Wi-Fi routers. You're not surfing the internet in your sleep. A lot of these devices have bright, sometimes flashing lights too, which will keep your melatonin levels down throughout the night. So even if you do fall asleep, you'll be getting less quality sleep and might wake up here and there throughout the night. I hunt down all those little green and blue lights that set up camp in my room, and then I cover them up with stickers so that the light is either severely dimmed or hopefully blocked out altogether. Bring some of these stickers with you on your trips too. Hotel rooms, even nice ones, are notorious for being sprinkled with such annoying, invasive, sleep-destroying lights. What bozo designed that? Even if you wear an eye mask, your body still receives the signals from these seemingly innocuous lights. While most of your light receptors are in your eyes, you do also have some in your skin. And even just a little bit of this mistimed light, and it'll throw off all your hormones. Not only will your melatonin be suppressed, but the hunger hormone, ghrelin, will come pounding on the door, giving you the late night munchies. That's not normal. You're not designed to be hungry at night, but your body is confused. It sees that blue light and thinks, it's lunchtime. Gremlins playing outside during the day, cute. Gremlins ravaging through your refrigerator at night, a sad horror movie. Day is day, night is night. Try not to mix the two. Luckily, there are some wavelengths of light that do not affect our melatonin or sleep. Red and infrared light is totally okay to get at night. Perhaps it's because our ancestors evolved sitting around the campfire at night. Fire, such as from candles or a campfire, mostly emits red and infrared light, low lux flames. Depending on the intensity of the flames, it could also emit blue or ultraviolets. Blue flames are the hottest, while red are the least hot. It all goes back to the same pattern of colors and light, growing in intensity as their wavelengths get shorter. We've been repeating throughout this episode, though the sun and fires generate energy in a different way with different processes and fuels, it is still all electromagnetic energy. And just like how your body breaks down all food into glucose, your body breaks all light down to wavelengths as information about its environment, triggering off the same series of processes. Anyway, the point here is that red light is okay at night. Infrared saunas, low to medium heat fires, incense, and candles, but try to get to bed at a decent hour because you do want to be able to keep waking up with the sun, or at least getting some of that essential morning light. The most important thing here, though, is to stick with a schedule that works for you. Consistency is key. You know your body best, and if you move everything up or down a couple hours from what I'm talking about, or do things a little bit differently, and it feels right, you're probably okay. Listen to your body. Plus, there are chronotypes. Some people are naturally night owls, others are morning larks, and others something in between. This also changes with age. If you're a teenager, it makes sense and might be healthier to stay up and wake up later. But as we get older, we tend to do everything earlier. Adjust your schedule accordingly. Generally, though, your body will run much more efficiently and you'll feel better if you provide your body with some predictability, a schedule. If it knows when to expect sleep, food, and so on, it'll start preparing the process for you automatically on its own. The more consistent you can make everything, the better off you'll be. Some of us work night shifts, though. It's one of the unhealthiest traditions in society. Someone has to do the work, though. If this turns out to be you, just try to keep your behavioral patterns as consistent as possible. Still, you're riding a sinking ship. This is an extreme version of social jet lag, a completely broken, mangled internal clock. You are living on the dark side of the sun, a land where life withers and dies, or is at least zapped of energy. It sucks that so many of us are stuck in situations in which it appears we're given two crappy options. One, get stabbed in the gut, have no house, money, or food. Or two, get punched in the face, work at a job that is killing your health and soul. It's not just the nurses and flight attendants getting whiplashed across space and time. Social jet lag is the norm in our society. Work and school schedules are set in blatant defiance to what is healthy and natural. We are slaves to corporations where health is not the metric, but short-term profits are. We feel it in our bones, see it on our wrinkled faces. We want to slap ourselves for having sold ourselves to the dollar devil, but we couldn't see any other way out. The sun can be your savior, lifting you up from this twisted, dying existence. Be like the ancients. Dance and play intimately with the sun. Treat it as the sacred god that it is. At night, look up at the stars. Remember, they too might be suns spinning around the Milky Way galaxy. So much changes as Earth goes around the sun. Seasons change, days get longer and shorter, plants and animals grow and die. We are all part of one environment, changing together. Day is a time of growth and action, and so too is summer. So eat more in the summer, chase new things, get busy, store up your energy in the form of light, food, money, and experience. Night will come. Winter will arrive, and all that energy will be harder to find. Still, get outside in the winter, soak up the sun. The days are short, there is less light, and the further you get from the equator, the more north or south you go, the more extreme. Either way, get out there in the sun. But it's natural to feel sleepy, lazy, sad, and less hungry. Some animals like bears, chipmunks, and bees sleep all winter. We continue our normal sleep-wake cycle. But since we're so far from the sun, we act accordingly with less energy and activity. Shorter days means more darkness, more melatonin. That's okay. Ride the tide. Don't fight it. Just as seasons change, so must we. Embrace the energy of summer. Cool down and fall like you're watching the setting sun. Rest and recover in the winter. Then wake up to the sunrise of spring. Earth constantly changes throughout its year-long journey around the sun. But just imagine how much the sun itself must change as it takes a 230 million year trip around the center of the Milky Way galaxy. How much those seasons on the sun must then affect us. Wow, our galaxy, home to 100 million other twirling stars, is itself part of a much larger universe. Whatever is creating all of this, thank you. And thank you, Mother Sun. Love you forever. See you tomorrow. Thank you again for listening, and please share this out with anybody who you think it might help. Good morning and good night.